This is SIETAR Florida, and we are featuring a panel of experts this evening that you're going to learn a lot from. With me, there are three panelists that are members of SIETAR Florida, all of whom have started an intercultural business, and we are looking to learn as much as possible from them about how do they do it, so we can join in the joy as well. My first panelist I'd like to introduce to you is Patricia Maldor Coleman, also known as Ms. Globalicious. She is the founder of SIETAR Florida. Welcome, Patricia.
Yeah.
Doing well. Thank you for joining us this evening. Our next guest is Yuko Donova, who is the immediate past president of SIETAR Florida. Bienvenue, Yuko.
Merci. Good evening, everyone.
And last but certainly not least is Curtis Curry, who is the present president of SIETAR Florida. Welcome, Curtis.
Thank you.
My name is Rachel Assigno. I am the program's ambassador for SIETAR Florida, and you are in for a treat this evening. So we're going to jump right in. I'm going to ask Patricia to introduce yourself and tell us about your business and how did you get inspired to start this business?
Wonderful. So my name is Patricia Maldor Coleman. I'm a dual citizen of France and the US. I actually discovered the United States by coming as an international student. I think that is where I got the bug of wanting to help people around the world to navigate cultures. Then after my MBA, I started working in the travel industry and hospitality. And there, of course, the staff and the workforce and the marketplace, the clientele were so diverse that I realized that there was a big need. So I had an amazing career, but I decided to switch to starting my own business. And I made my company my first source of clients, and everything grew up from there. So my clients are from international students all the way to executives and teams doing business locally and globally. And that started in 1996, celebrating 25 years next year.
Congratulations. That's a wonderful business. We look forward to learning more from you this evening. Yuko, how about you? Tell us about yourself and your business.
Yes, so my name is Yuko Donova. I'm French and Japanese, and I lived in both countries. I was born in France and grew up in both Paris and Tokyo. And 5 years ago, I moved to the US as an expat spouse with my Vietnamese husband, and that's when I changed my career. So from being a sales manager in an international company, where I used to work with clients and coworkers from all around the world, I decided to create my own business and help others to succeed also working in an international environment, and also help people to move from a country to another. That's when I created 5 years ago YD Coaching.
Thank you, Yuko. And Curtis, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business.
You're muted.
My name is Curtis Curry, and I'm a US American. And I have, like many people, I studied abroad, and that's what got me very interested in international. And I also majored in history and political science, and so I was very interested in international politics. But I actually met my wife on a study abroad. We were living in France, and we started dating in Florence, Italy. So I've been in love with international work for many years. I've directed a project in Central America for 5 years, and I also ran the World Trade Institute of the Americas. So that's my original link with international. My business focuses on leadership development, and we provide mainly training, or at least did before COVID. And the training is very feedback intensive programs, and I got started by applying for a job with a local company. It's a high-tech company called Harris Corporation, and they needed someone to teach in Latin America. And since I speak Spanish, they thought I was a good fit. So that's a little bit about our business. We've been in business for going on 23 years.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you so much for all three of you to help us understand a little bit more about what market you corner, which brings me to the next question I would like to know is, since you each have a very unique business and services that you offer to clients, how did you choose a target audience and this specific niche for this business? Patricia, let's start with you.
So it really, for me, there's a lot of my work is paying it forward for those who I did not expect help from, and paying it forward to myself of realizing that I needed more help and I didn't know where to look for it. So I am that help now, but I had good mentors. As far as being an international student, I found out the hard way, wonderful culture shock, learning lessons. And so I decided to have that first niche. Then, of course, working in the travel industry and hospitality, my clients became hotels, airports, airlines, and car rentals. And there was a high need in training, in multilingual reservation centers, front desk, marketing, and to serve an international clientele. As we know, international clientele, everybody wants to go on vacation, everybody wants to travel for business, but we all have different needs and beliefs. So those two became my niche. And also I studied international business and languages. So I brought all this together to work in that area.
Sounds like a perfect mix.
Yep.
Yuko, you didn't start as a coach in your career. How did you get there, and how did you choose a target audience for where you are now with your business?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's pretty easy. I would say the target audience came to me, and it's the clients that came initially were like me, people like me. So it means it's the women, mainly women that I helped, were like me, meaning they were expat spouse, moving from a country to another, reinventing themselves, recreating their identity. So they came to me because they were inspired by my story, because I also had to reinvent myself from being a sales manager to a stay-at-home mom with 2 young children who were 3 and 18 months at that time. So yeah, I would say that's how my niche started. And now it has evolved with the time. I'm also helping students. I'm also teaching to students. In Japan, I gave some lectures in universities in Tokyo, and I feel more and more interested in teaching as well. So I feel like my niche is evolving. I also have a lot of requests for, obviously, Japan and France. So I also support employees working with Japanese clients and Japanese coworkers.
Very nice. Thank you. Curtis, you mentioned a little bit about the history of starting with Harris and working with a couple different entities. Can you tell us a little bit more about how did you choose a target audience for the niche that you hold in your business?
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting because with a background in political science, heavy dose of political philosophy and history, that's not the typical route to business, but it was my route to business. And I was fortunate enough to work as a director of training for the Center for Business and Industry at Miami-Dade College. And we did all kinds of work with businesses. And I learned a lot about managing projects and running projects and managing my own team. And so I learned a lot about leadership. And my master's degree was in international studies, so it's a pretty nice link. I went back and got an MBA, and my doctorate is also in leadership development. So the natural client for me is developing leaders and management training and consulting with businesses to help them with design their leadership development curriculum.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. All three of you have talked about what your business is and who your target audience is, but I'd like to know more about what services do you offer, and has that actually changed from the beginning of your business? Has that evolved at all? Yuko, I'm going to start with you this time.
Okay. Yes. So I would say I offer 3 types of services. First one is the cross-cultural trainings, focused on Japanese, European, and American cultures. And this usually comes from indirect clients, I would say. Indirect meanings, relocation companies, etc. The second service I offer is life coaching. And I got certified in 2017 as a life coach because I noticed that my clients had some challenges in the self-confidence. Obviously, when you transition from an environment to another, your self-confidence is challenged. So that's why I am offering also life coaching, and I focus on energy coaching, energy leadership, how to manage your energy, how to stay motivated, how to resist to the stress. So that's another area, I would say, and mainly to women like me. So that's my second service. And the third service is career coaching and leadership coaching. It's also via companies, like indirect companies. That's my 3 services. And to answer the second question, yes, they have changed a lot since I started. They keep evolving. Every year it's changing, and maybe in 5 years I will do something totally different. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Curtis, how about you?
Wow.
What types
well,
of services do you offer, and have they changed through the years?
Yes, they have. When I first started, like many businesses, I had a wonderful customer and plenty of business. And so I did all of the leadership training, all kinds of leadership training for Harris, from introductory kind of management and supervisory skills training, all the way up through high level training with 360-degree feedback and all kinds of psychometric instruments. And that's what I've done for the bulk of my business, those feedback intensive programs, because that's what I love doing. I'm passionate about it. And before COVID, we had some new customers lined up, and we were doing quite well. But of course, with COVID now, life groups of 20 people, that just doesn't work right now. So we're in the process of sort of reinventing ourselves. We're working on 2 online courses, one in conflict and one in cognitive diversity, that we hope to roll out in January or February. So yeah, our offerings have changed over time, and I'll talk a little bit later about the partnerships, because I do some fun and interesting and weird stuff with some of my business partners.
Okay. Patricia, how about you? What services do you offer, and have they changed through the years?
Yes, so something, and that some of you have heard me say a lot this year. This is evolution and revolution and renaissance. So it's ongoing. It's a vicious circle. We walk the talk. We evolve with the field. There's not one day that's the same. There's not one program that's the same. Not one coaching session that's the same. And so for me, my concentration in my MBA was international marketing, and then when I decided I'm jumping to my company, when I was looking for the name of my company, I decided to call it AZ, World Connections, because I knew that it would not be an A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3. It would be just from A to Z. They can ask me anything. I'll have to find the person, find the tools, find the answer. But also, because I was working with the travel industry, hospitality, and international student in this School of Hospitalities, etc., what I found is that marketing yourself or marketing your services was so important. So I focus a lot on how to deliver with the right language. So multilingual customer service, multilingual campaigns were very important. Then globalization took place, and I naturally, because it was who I was and what I did, because my position in corporate America was to travel around to do my work. So when globalization became the thing, what I realized is that, consulting and advising were very, very important. And that's where the coaching came in. So I got certified with 10 years ago as a coach. Why? Because you need to have credentials, and you also need to know what you're doing. You are dealing with people's lives, and you need to know when to teach. You need to know when to refer them to a different type of professional. As Yuko said, there's a lot of stress in this work, high demand, a lot of burnouts, and this is the lives and all the savings of people sometimes when they move across the world and when they invest into studies abroad. So my services have definitely evolved. And in 2020, I am so happy to be comfortable in front of a computer and to be able to reach my clients from A to Z. So I think I was onto something back in 1996.
You're ahead of the COVID curve.
Ahead of the curve, yes. I wish.
That's wonderful. Yuko, I actually want to go back to you because of the diverse types of services that you offer, and you just kind of fell into this, I guess. It just was born out of necessity. So would you consider yourself a consultant or an entrepreneur? Talk a little bit about that.
Yes, that's a great question. I like to consider myself as an entrepreneur, because even if half of my activity for now, maybe it's 40% of my activity is as a consultant through companies. So when I say indirect company, when I offer cross-cultural training or cross-cultural consulting services, it's as a consultant. But I like to consider myself as an entrepreneur because 60% of my activities is direct clients. I offer life coaching, energy coaching, and that's what I want to grow. And for me, being an entrepreneur means that I'm free to choose also. I'm free to choose for who I'm working, what I want to do. I get to be creative and decide what services I want to offer to my clients. So that's my response. So I would say I'm an entrepreneur.
All right. I want to take a question from the audience because we were just talking about the types of services that all three of you offer. So Claire's asking a really important question here about services. So her question is, do you think you could offer services exclusively on cross-culture without going through leadership or strengths finder, something like that? I'll open that up to any of our panelists.
So I'm not sure I understand stress finder, leadership. Can you rephrase the question? Is that in the chat somewhere?
It is. Claire, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm still muted or not.
No,
we can hear you.
I have the feeling that all of you entered through the lens of cross-culture, but pretty quickly you add, whether through certification, whether through understanding that there's going to be a need or a new market, you go beyond just the cross-cultural type of consulting. I was discussing with someone yesterday on West Coast. She used Strengths Finder because she liked that training. And so there's probably a very large variety of additional that are absolutely not linked to cross-culture, but probably help you develop a larger or more holistic sets of services. Do you think? And so I'm going to compare that to an Erin Meyer, who's solely on cross-culture, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So I think I know who you had the conversation with, Claire. So let me go ahead and answer this. So first of all, and reading through, the experience is definitely the first thing that you have to have. It makes it easier. If If you've lived abroad, if you speak 2 or more languages, you have made a huge leap into the cross-cultural arena. Okay. After that, with this experience, which is the foundation, of course, your credentials, whether it is degrees at a university, that is going to play a lot. And knowing French, for example, I know that sometimes they are asking me to prove that I got my bachelor's and my MBA, even at my age. So we know in some cultures they do want to see those degrees. But any other certifications and tools, that makes you more competitive when you want to work with certain companies that have a choice of many scholars, of people who are selling themselves well, but you now have an éventail, as we like to say in French. You have all these cards of things that they can use that are certifications, that are great tools, that shows that you have a frame to do your work. So imagine your frame, and then inside of that, you have that meat, that experience, that makes you definitely credible and definitely competitive. So experience, education, certification, and then you keep going as we evolve. Does this help, Claire?
It does. The additional question I have, though, is Erin Meyer, who's solely focusing on cross-culture.
Okay, yes.
Versus having that in your palette of services as a filter that makes you different from competition, but actually also serving other things, which are not linked to cross-cultural, but more leadership management and
right. So I can give you myself as an example. I apologize, Curtis and Yuko, if you touch on that, please elaborate. I'm a DEI practitioner. I have been a diversity and inclusion practitioner for the last 18 years, and for the last 4 years, it became diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's the hot topic right now. You cannot run a company, you cannot work in a team with success today if you don't have that knowledge, if you're not diversity and inclusion competent. So that's the other layer. And it, of course, it evolves, right? So you have cross-cultural, but of course with that, leadership. So I work with people of color, I work with women that are marginalized, LGBTQ, and that's not culture. In a way, it is. It's a layer of culture in the world.
Mm-hmm. And this is a hot topic, Claire, and I'm glad you brought it up, because this is actually on our radar at SIETAR Florida. We're going to be hosting a program probably in the spring that talks specifically about what are the tools and instruments that cross-cultural and intercultural practitioners can use, and what are people using? What are those credible instruments that you can get certified on or just use, maybe not with a certification, but to be able to work with your audience, your clients, your businesses, whatever audience, to be able to drive the message of cross-cultural, intercultural, and cultural intelligence. So stay tuned for that. We don't have a date quite yet, but that is one of the programs that we want to offer this year.
And I would just
want to, yeah, Curtis, let me just add something really quickly. I think that anybody wanting to start a business today, they have an advantage that of something I was facing. I worked from home 50% of the time, and working from home back in the 1990s was frowned upon. If you're working in your living room and on the table in your kitchen, you're not credible. Today, everybody works from home. It's actually, I can reach you anytime you're available. So it's another example of evolving, right? Sorry, Curtis, go ahead.
No worries. Claire, if it's the same Erin Myers that I think it is, she's a professor at Harvard University. Is it the same one?
She's a professor at INSEAD in France.
Okay. Yeah, and she teaches.
She also might be at Harvard. I don't know.
Yeah, I think she might teach at Harvard as well. But that's another good route to doing consulting in intercultural work and intercultural training. That's a full-time position as a professor, because then you can just go out and make a lot more money with your consulting business sometimes than you do as a professor. Although I think at INSEAD or at Harvard, she'd be pretty well compensated. But I know I have a lot of colleagues who do that, who are professors first. They have a full-time job as a professor, and they do all sorts of intercultural training, global leadership, but the cultural focus on the leadership piece. They don't do it full time because they're professors full time, but they do get to get their feet wet in terms of doing the training. I have a friend just down the street here at the Institute for Cross-Cultural Management also, who does some consulting work.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to add anything to that?
By the way, I would just add that I do the opposite. So I run my business, but I teach part-time as kind of a fun side gig that I started doing several years ago.
Yeah, that's what I'm starting to do, and because I love to teach. I used to teach, and now it's just that's going to be my next. Talking about evolution, that's going to be my next wave. You got to stay connected to the young generation, to the next generation.
Pay it forward so they can carry it forward.
There you go.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
You
I
heard
agree.
it here first. I should copyright that. So since we're talking about business and tools and resources, we were mentioning some different assessments and stuff. I want to ask about tools and resources that you are using for your business. And Yuko, you have some pretty interesting experience with social media that we wanted to bring to the table. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes, so for my direct clients, for the coaching part, I use a lot of my social media. So I'm very active on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I also send newsletters. I have a website, obviously, and I have a YouTube channel. So it's fun for me. So that I do it for fun, but also that's a way for me to connect with my potential clients. And so my potential clients, usually they watch several videos and then they contact me for a discovery session, and then they become or not clients. But that's how I would say I attract the clientele. It's through social media, but not only that, also from the word of mouth. A lot comes from word of mouth as well, and also from being present on through webinars like this, or giving speeches at conferences. Yeah, I think and writing articles. I mean, there are so many different ways to increase visibility.
Yeah, that's great. And Patricia, how about you? How do you get clients for your business?
Well, I'm going to jump into the cultural values. In cultural values, you have relationship, and you have who you know and what you know. And I'm relationship oriented. I do not let anyone connect me with my clients. I want to do the work. So I'm going to make it super simple. I met lovely Yuko, who I consider her like a sister now, through a partner of mine who said, I just had this amazing young lady who just moved to Melbourne. You got to meet her. And then when you hear that, and also I think I saw Professor Mormon, but I don't see her now. She's another lovely one. But when people connecting, your network is so very important, and making time to connect with people. Again, that paying it forward. It starts there. So organization like SIETAR USA is where I started, and then I started SIETAR Florida. But I would say that maybe 40% of my work comes because I got involved with an organization like SIETAR USA. It just spreads, and because SIETAR USA, then you have the global SIETAR, and they're all over the world. We were just on SIETAR Japan, last week. We were with, SIETAR France a couple of weeks ago. So it's there. But for my direct clients, it really is from my reputation for my initial clients. And it's just referrals. I work 90% referrals, no ads, very little social media. I just keep everybody in touch with what I'm doing through social media. But I'm lucky that I have a name that carries me through. and I have to make sure to keep it nice and clean and evolved, but it's really referrals. Yes.
Okay. And Curtis, I want to talk with you a little bit about getting clients, and you also mentioned partnerships. Tell us about that aspect of business.
Well, I mentioned just to echo what Patricia just said, all of my business is word of mouth. So it comes from customers who were satisfied, left one company and went to another company and brought me in. I think over 95% of our business comes to us that way. Another unusual way, unique way that we have done business is by partnering with other organizations. So this goes back to Claire's question a little bit too. But I am certified in a number of tools that you can use in leadership development. One of them is the Herman Brain Dominance Instrument. It's a great tool to use for cognitive diversity, HBDI. And I have a partnership with them. I'm a certified master trainer for them. So I actually certify practitioners of HBDI. We are also in charge of Latin America, the selling piece. You asked the question about entrepreneur before. So we're trying to increase the sales of HBDI in Latin America. That's very slow going right now, but that's as a result of our partnership too. So we have a very, very good long-standing relationship with Herman International. We have another partnership with a company called Paradigm Learning, and they do primarily finance training. They do finance and project management, which project management I know inside and out. And they also do some HR talent management training. So we've become very good partners over the years, and I do all of their training in Spanish. I do all of their training in Portuguese in Brazil. So that's been very good, those partnerships. We also worked with Rollins College. We've worked with the Center for Conflict Dynamics because Patricia and I are both certified in that. And let's see, there's one more I'm missing. Oh, the Institute for Cross-Cultural Management just down the street. That partnership, they're basically, their focus is on cross-cultural management. And so they have a research focus and then they have a training focus. And so I've helped them develop their cross-cultural training focus. And we've done some projects together with Orlando International Airport, for example. So having those kinds of partnerships, and there are other contracts that I have won and I've brought people on board as well. So that gets back to Patricia's idea of networking, the networking being so important. And, I'm hopeful that people will bring me on board, and that has happened actually. They brought me on board with big projects as well. So I think the partnering and the networking can be a good way also to grow your business.
And I was talking about relationship, building trust and relationship. It's so natural for me. I have a partner that's now 30, we're going on 35 years. Why 35 years? Well, it's ELS Language Center, which is also, there's a center on the FIT. As a French national, when I came to the US, I did not speak English like I do now. I went to ELS Language Centers, and I was just a model after that. People said, we want to do what you did. And I said, go to the school. And I referred so many students to them that they approached me one day. And now I'm celebrating 30, actually the actual agreement is 30 years, 30 solid years of agreement as an authorized agent to recruit, counsel, and place students in the ELS language centers and then in universities. And that's just amazing. That's easy work. You go to a platform or you get emails because of who you are, and people said, I want to study there, and you go through the steps, and it's magical. So what I say to people is find your passion and find something that you're good at, and then find something that people say, Emily, I want to be just like you, and Patricia and Beatrice and Claire, I want what you have. What did you do? And that's where that trust is already there, that seed is already planted, and not reinvented the wheel, and not, there's just so many things out there that if you're trying to be, we were talking about Kim Kardashian, if you want to try to be another Kardashian, why do you want to do that? You are you. and you want to show someone how to take the same steps and to grow into their uniqueness.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Patricia, and I think that's connects to what I said earlier too, is that my clients found me because they want to be like me, or they want to know how I adapted to a new culture or new country. So I think it's the same for all of you. Like your clients will be attracted by who you are and your energy and your message, and so naturally you will also be attracted by the tools, different tools that will help you to help your clients better. So for me, that's why I was interested in energy coaching, because I wanted to help better my clients.
And I would refer somebody to Yuko, because if that person is a mother, an expat wife who used to work, who's not working anymore, who has young children, either I would refer or bring her into the training, because when she just starts sharing her story and revisits the hard moments, and then you see her as she is now, I want to get to that point. It doesn't mean I want to be Yuko. I want to get to that point, and I want you to walk with me to that point. So I think a lot of us complement each other. And this is, SIETAR. I'm sorry if I'm doing advertising. I'm kind of but I don't mean to. But we are a very generous organization, and because we know how unique we are, and we'll help anyone get to to where they want to go a lot faster than we did. Because sometimes it was hard, and if we can mentor and help support, why not?
There was a question about the link between coaching and the HBDI instrument. Curtis, did you want to expand on that a little bit?
I use HBDI in coaching, and I've used it in Latin America and Brazil as well. And what the HBDI does is it helps individuals understand their thinking styles, their thinking preferences. And so that can help people build bridges across differences. It's a cool tool in that it travels very well across culture. So an engineer in Brazil will have a very similar pattern to an engineer in the US. So you'll see some commonalities more linked to work than to national culture. So that's kind of neat, because it's something that you can use to help people understand themselves and understand others and build bridges across those differences. So it's a tool I'm really passionate about, and I've used it for years. I love the concept. I mean, they were talking about cognitive diversity 20 years ago, and now it's very popular subject, and it's getting some good research, and they've actually got some good research too on some positive things that have happened with the international teams that have used it around the world.
Mm-hmm. Great. I want to address Claire's question as we're kind of winding down and looking at some of the other things that we're going to talk about here, because I find that this is a really important question. The question is about, for companies that have people from different nationalities, we're seeing a lot of diversity, equity, inclusion efforts. In the United States, it seems to focus more so on generation age differences, racial differences, and things like that. However, when we're talking about a team that's comprised with people from all over the world who have different cultural values, we're not seeing so many companies embrace cultural intelligence so much as diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I wonder if either Curtis or perhaps Patricia and even Yuko, if you have some experience with companies adopting more of the cross-cultural team understanding and building than just simply diversity, equity, and inclusion.
My experience in the United States with American companies is that they're very interested in diversity, equity, inclusion. In terms of the intercultural, the cross-cultural, I think that's going to depend on the organization. They certainly don't put the resources into intercultural relations, cross-cultural training that they put into leadership development, management development, communication, those kinds of areas. But I think it does vary. Just to give you a quick example, this is a university, but Florida Tech has lots of international students. I think it's number 2 or number 3 in the US for the size of international students here in Melbourne, Florida. And they made a decision that they wanted to run every new staff member through cross-cultural training. So obviously they're quite committed to doing cross-cultural training, and we developed some video-based program. I think we had 12 different modules for that. So they're very dedicated to that. Other companies, not as much. That's been my experience. I mean, there are some individual examples of companies that, like IBM, that do invest time and a lot of energy into cross-cultural training. I'm curious to hear my colleagues' experiences.
So for me, I've noticed the word competition, especially in the US, is what puts some fire in your derriere. When you see your competitors leading in the top 10 companies, that are, diversity compliant or have great diversity initiatives, it makes people realize that they should. Also, I've noticed I'm working on reviewing websites. I'm reviewing websites of major hotels right now, and reviewing not so much for translations, or although I'm watching and I'm reading English, French, and Spanish, but I basically am reading them to see if it does something to my appetite. And I've noticed that the IT people behind are pushing for most websites to make sure to have a mission statement, to have a diversity initiative. So it's really becoming just like you're having a nice dinner and they say, what do you mean you don't have an appetizer? You need to have an appetizer. So you need to have your diversity, you need to have your cross-cultural, otherwise you cannot have a good dinner. You cannot be competitive in business nowadays if you are working globally or if you're working in a very diverse area. Dallas, Texas, for example, most companies there are very sensitive to that because, I mean, they have over 200 languages spoken and I think 60 nationalities. It's incredible. So that's my two cents for that.
Thank you.
And to add something on that, yes, I'm very surprised. So many companies don't offer cross-cultural trainings here. Like, for example, the company of my husband, it's a French company in the US. He didn't get any cross-cultural training, and I'm in French expat groups here in Melbourne, and they are in different companies. None of these companies offered cross-cultural training to the French managers. So managers who are going to lead American employees. So that's led to some catastrophe, and they had to go back to France, and it's a huge loss of money. So I'm always so surprised, to your point, Claire, the emphasis on intercultural training is not the priority to companies. Hopefully it's going to change.
I think that one thing that they get when they relocate, they get a relocation package. They get an allowance for schools, an allowance for this, for that, but they always get language training if they don't have the level of English. And somewhere, having worked with language schools, and when I did, make sure that it was language and culture. You cannot learn a language without learning the culture. So this is where there could be some partnership. I have a client that Yuko knows really well, was pushing to use my services as an intercultural business coach for a French person working in the US. And his manager said, oh, just use this app, or just use the Rosetta Stone. And of course, with my marketing and sales background, I helped him explain that this is just not the same thing. There's a big difference. We're not learning how to say, hello, how are you? Fine, thank you. We're learning how to develop relationships and getting business done and winning bids and making the goals of the company. So there's some work done. If any of you want to start a business where culture and language is a must when you move, you would save companies a lot of money, because in the end, it's the bottom line. It's the bottom line. So I have found also that when I propose leadership, for example, intercultural business coaching or leadership in a global world, the first word is what matters. I think cross-cultural, intercultural doesn't resonate. People think they're going to go to a museum, talk about food or songs from a culture, but using powerful words like that. And for me, the word coaching, when I introduce myself as a coach, I get a lot more clients than as a trainer, as a cross-cultural trainer. People don't know what that is until they sit in front of you and go, oh, I wish I had done that before.
And there are organizations that have initiatives, like Goa had a major initiative because the leadership decided Orlando is becoming an international airport. International tourism is so important to Orlando. So we did a big initiative there and did cross-cultural training for just about everyone except the TSA. There would still like to get that contract to work with the TSA folks as well. But so very forward-looking from the leaders. We did special training for the leaders and all the way down into the organization so people could understand cultural differences. But again, I think, in the relocation services, I was talking to a colleague, a SIETAR colleague in Canada last week, and very skilled person, lots of education in the field, doctorate. He just loves doing relocation. He and his wife work together and they do primarily relocation. And so I think you can build a business and establish a reputation doing relocation work as well. Well, he certainly did up in Canada.
I want to ask a couple more questions and then we'll take some more questions from the chat and from the audience. What is one thing that you love about having your own business? Patricia, how about you?
Travel, 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 travel. Meet amazing people. Travel, travel, travel. Because when I travel, I learn, I bloom, and I stay young. So, yeah, travel, travel, travel. Even now, in 2020.
Curtis, how about you? What do you love?
I love to travel too. I mean, those of us who have the international bug, I think we all love traveling and exploring new places and learning new things. I think for me, it's the freedom because I can pretty much, I could do what I want. If I don't want to do a certain thing for a customer, I can say no. I can look into doing interesting projects. I can learn new things. Like now I do the finance training and I never envisioned that I would be doing finance training, and I love it because it's a simulation and it's very, very good training. So you're constantly learning when you're running your own business, especially a business that focuses on consulting, training, and coaching. Constantly reading, and that's just at this point in my career and the 20 years ago when I started the business, that's where I wanted to be. So I just love that freedom and kind of making my own life my own way.
Yeah. And like Curtis, like taking your business anywhere, my business goes with me. So we travel together. That's freedom. But it comes, you have to ask that question, at what cost, Rachel? Go ahead, Yuko.
Yes, I really like what you said, Patricia and Curtis. I also love traveling. I love the freedom. Being a mom and having two young children, 6 and 8 now, it's very important to me to have this freedom, flexibility, and learning all the time. I'm always learn on different topics. Right now I have 2 coaches myself because I always want to grow. So I'm learning about group coaching because I want to do more and more of group coaching. And I have another coach just for my mindset because I think I want to walk the talk. I want to always have a good energy to help my clients. So that's what I love, to learn and my freedom.
And then on the flip side, what do you not care for so much in business? Curtis, how about you?
Oh, why did you start with me?
Because I know you have an answer.
So I just said I love to teach finance. I hate doing accounting. It's just not something I like doing. I don't like billing. I don't like doing travel. Anything that requires lots and lots of details, I don't particularly like. And also the selling. I could spend more time in selling and should spend more time in selling, especially now with the game changed so much with COVID.
Patricia, how about you? What do you not care for as much?
Well, I incorporated in Florida status an S corp, and so that comes with having to report to the Florida corporations, and of course file taxes quarterly, yearly, and that's not only personal taxes but business coaches. So taxes. So I've had a CPA actually that's been with me for 20 years. And I don't have employees. Everybody is a consultant or a contractor. So even my assistant is virtual and working on projects only. So definitely the finance part, and I have to do the bookkeeping, but I do like doing it myself because I know my numbers, I know what's going on. I kind of do a forecast. I see where the money comes from and where I should focus on. Usually you need to focus on the areas where you make less money. But unfortunately, there's some things that I love. And in any case, the one thing that I would say, I'm close to being 60 years old, and being independent, you don't have the protection of a major corporation as far as your benefits, your 401k, and your insurance. So you really have to manage all of that. Renew your own insurance, and of course I boosted a business, so that's a perk. A lot of your expenses, you can really legally and ethically include expenses that supports your business. Like a lot of my travel, a good percentage of it goes for my business. But at some point you start wondering, when do I retire? So the good thing is I take off my French hat right now. Like my mom says, you're going to be 60 something soon. And I said, no. In the US, when you turn 60 something, you start a new career, the next level of your business. So this is the part I would say that is the tough. You're not sitting on a pension because you have been working 30 years in your company like you would if you worked for a corporation or work for the government, postal service, military. So that's where I would say be smart, invest. 401k. I mean, I did that not early enough, but I did it. So I'm not in trouble, but that's something to think about. And not everybody does. We just love the freedom of working when we want. So, and I work many hours, but that's not a drawback because I can work early morning, late night, Saturday, Sunday, holidays. Actually, I have a client on Thursday next week, and that's Thanksgiving, So, but that's okay. I said, I'll give you 2 hours and then go have turkey.
And it's not Thanksgiving for everyone necessarily.
That's exactly why. It's not Thanksgiving for them, and they're in Ireland.
That's right. That's right. Yuko, how about you?
Yes. So I think I agree with what you said also, and for me, it's maybe the challenge. So the challenge is that it's not always stable for sure, and there is some up and lows, and so we don't learn to become an entrepreneur. This is not something we learn at school. So we need to have a resilience and being willing to fail and stand. And so we need a strong mindset. So that's something I learned. And I had a coach 5 years ago, actually, when I created my business. I had an entrepreneur coach. So I really walk the talk. I'm coaching others, but I'm also having coaches all the time to help me going through different transitions. I think that would be the biggest challenge. The resilience, and also to delegate some tasks that I don't like. I hate also all the numbers, etc. So I also have a virtual assistant, and I just hired also a brand ambassador. So she's not an employee, but she's working with me as a consultant, and she's doing all my social media right now. So I think delegation is key as well.
I speak in high schools and universities, and of course, being an entrepreneur, when you see, the owner of Amazon, he got out of high school, I think it is, and not even college, and started this business. I say even to my children, get some experience, be a waiter, work somewhere, talk to people. You need to have some kind of experience to see how a business is run, deal with money, get some money, give change, run a credit card, close a business. You somehow you need to, because I thought about that, Yuko, when you said that you don't learn in school. You learn to a certain degree, but real life experience is working. And I was lucky enough that my parents had their own business, and I worked with them growing up. And then I work in a business where I was in management, where I dealt with all levels of operations, sales, marketing, and so on. So that I was lucky. But you're right. It's amazing to be your own boss, but it comes at the cost when you have to learn from scratch. You need to have some kind of experience.
I would add one thing to that, Patricia and Yuko, and that is if you land that big client, that one big giant client, be very wary of just working for that one big giant client who gives you lots and lots of business, because when they go through a downturn in the cycle, you'll be very hungry. So it's better to cultivate different clients. We've worked with 200 organizations now, different organizations over the life span of our company. Now we don't have 200 customers right this instant, but the point is to don't just have one source of customer, one source of income from one customer.
Rachel, I just wanted to tell you, I'm willing to stay another 10 minutes. I don't want to put anybody on spot, but I got a couple of private messages with questions. If they could ask questions live, and
Certainly
stay, I'll stay.
Yeah, we actually have 1 minute left, so I do want to leave that opportunity because we have a question in the chat as well. But I want everybody to know that for SIETAR Florida, we always host the first Thursday of every month at noon Eastern, a virtual hangout. And this is an opportunity for us to connect and network and see what are the needs of SIETAR Florida and other SIETAR members and some of the seekers who may not be members yet, and just getting to know one another in a professional capacity. So then you'll know that my husband is an accountant and can help you with your business, and so on and so forth. And our next big program coming up is on Monday, December 7th. We have 3 guest speakers that are going to be telling us about holidays. We are going to be featuring Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, and the Thai New Year. All of these things are on our Facebook page. We also have a Google Calendar. If you're a Google Calendar user, we can sign you up for that as well. I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. And if you do want to stay on and have some of these questions answered, we'd be happy to do so. But if you have to drop off, we appreciate your time that you did spend with us this evening.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Who has
everyone.
a question?